He was 30 years old and had never touched a woman, never been kissed, never let anyone close. The billionaire lived like a ghost in his own mansion until she walked through his door with nothing but 2 suitcases and a desperate need for work.
You're the new housekeeper. Mrs. Winters will show you which areas need maintenance. My office and bedroom are private.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cross. I was just familiarizing myself with the house.
She was supposed to clean his home and disappear, but when this broken man whispered her name in his sleep, everything changed. For the first time in his life, he wanted to be touched, but powerful enemies were watching, waiting to destroy the one thing that made him feel human.
I've never been with anyone. Not romantically, not physically. 30 years old and I've never even kissed someone.
There's nothing wrong with you, Nathaniel.
When a man who's never known love finally opens his heart, the whole world tries to tear it apart. Will he choose the woman who taught him to feel, or lose her to protect the empire he built in isolation? Can love survive when billionaires become targets and maids become weapons? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Rain poured down on the small cemetery as Savannah Brooks stood alone by her grandmother's grave. At 26, she never thought she'd be all alone in the world. The black umbrella shielded her from the rain, but couldn't protect her from the pain in her heart. "I'll make you proud, Grandma," she whispered, placing a single white rose on the fresh grave. Back at her grandmother's small apartment, Savannah sat at the kitchen table surrounded by bills. Medical bills, funeral expenses, and past due notices created a mountain of debt that seemed impossible to climb. Her part-time job at the local library wouldn't even cover next month's rent. The phone rang, startling her from her calculations. "Miss Brooks?" The woman's voice was crisp and professional. "This is Margaret Wilson from Elite Staffing Solutions. I'm calling about your application." Savannah sat up straighter. "Yes, thank you for calling back. We have a position that might interest you. It's a live-in housekeeping role at a private estate in Connecticut. The salary is substantial, $8,000 per month plus room and board." Savannah nearly dropped the phone. That kind of money would clear her grandmother's medical bills in just a few months. "What's the catch?" she asked, knowing offers like this usually came with strings attached. "The employer is particular. He values his privacy and has specific requirements. Most of our staff haven't lasted more than a month there." "Who is he?" "Nathaniel Cross." Savannah's eyes widened. Everyone knew about Nathaniel Cross, the reclusive billionaire who had revolutionized software security. His face rarely appeared in magazines, and rumors about his strange behavior circulated widely. "I'll take it," Savannah said before she could change her mind. 3 days later, a sleek black car delivered Savannah to the gates of Cross Estate. The iron gate swung open silently as they approached. The mansion loomed ahead, massive, modern, and eerily quiet. The driver didn't speak as he carried her 2 suitcases to the front door. Before he could knock, the door swung open, revealing a thin woman with grey hair pulled back in a tight bun. "You must be Miss Brooks. I'm Mrs. Winters, the house manager." Her eyes scanned Savannah from head to toe. "You're younger than I expected." "I'm 26, Savannah replied, standing her ground. "Follow me, I'll show you to your quarters and explain your duties." The mansion was immaculate but cold. Modern furniture, minimal decoration, and not a single personal photograph anywhere. It felt more like a museum than a home. Mr. Cross requires absolute organization. Everything has its place. He works unusual hours and expects silence when he's working. Meals are prepared according to this schedule. Mrs. Winters handed her a thick manual. "Your duties are detailed here. You'll be responsible for cleaning the main living areas, laundry, and occasional meal preparation when the cook is off." "When will I meet Mr. Cross?" Savannah asked. Mrs. Winters' lips thinned. "Mr. Cross avoids unnecessary interaction. You may not see him for days." After settling into her room, surprisingly spacious and comfortable, Savannah began exploring the areas she'd be responsible for. The kitchen gleamed with high-end appliances that looked barely used. The living room, dining room, and hallways were spotless but sterile. As she dusted a shelf in the main hallway, she noticed a door slightly ajar. Curiosity pulled her forward. Inside was a home office with wall-to-wall bookshelves. A large desk faced floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest behind the house. "That room isn't part of your cleaning duties." Savannah jumped at the deep voice behind her. She turned to find herself face-to-face with Nathaniel Cross. He was taller than she expected, with dark hair that looked like he ran his fingers through it constantly. His eyes were a startling blue, intense and wary. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a plain grey t-shirt. Nothing like the suits she'd imagined a billionaire would wear. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cross. I was just familiarizing myself with the house." He studied her, his expression unreadable. "You're the new housekeeper." "Savannah Brooks." She extended her hand. He looked at it for a moment too long before briefly touching her fingers with his. The contact lasted only a second, but Savannah noticed how he quickly pulled away. "Mrs. Winters will show you which areas need maintenance. My office and bedroom are private." With that, he stepped around her and closed the office door firmly. For the next 2 weeks, Savannah rarely saw Nathaniel. She'd catch glimpses of him disappearing around corners or locked away in his office. The house ran like clockwork, with Mrs. Winters overseeing everything with military precision. One evening, while dusting the living room, Savannah noticed something odd. A small plate with an untouched slice of cake sat on the coffee table. Beside it lay a single card with "Happy Birthday" printed on it. "Mrs. Winters, whose birthday is it?" she asked when the house manager walked by. The older woman's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Cross turned 30 today. He's celebrating alone? He always does." Later that night, unable to sleep, Savannah wandered to the kitchen for some tea. The house was silent, except for the distant sound of typing coming from Nathaniel's office. She hesitated at his door, then knocked softly. "Come in," came the surprised response. Nathaniel sat at his desk, surrounded by computer screens. He looked tired, his eyes red from staring at code for hours. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Savannah said. "I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday." He stared at her, clearly caught off guard. "Thank you. That's unnecessary. Everyone deserves birthday wishes." She stepped further into the room. "Didn't you have plans to celebrate?" A flicker of something, vulnerability perhaps, crossed his face before disappearing. "I don't celebrate birthdays." "Why not?" He looked at her like no one had ever asked him such a direct question. "They're just days like any other." "Well, I made you some tea." She placed a cup on his desk. "Chamomile. Helps with sleep." He stared at the cup. "You didn't have to do that." "I know. Good night, Mr. Cross." As days turned into weeks, Savannah noticed small changes in the routine. Nathaniel began working in the living room occasionally, instead of always hiding in his office. Sometimes he'd ask her simple questions about her day or comment on the weather. One morning, she found him in the kitchen attempting to make coffee, looking completely lost. "The cook has the day off," he explained, frowning at the coffee maker. "I can make it for you," she offered, stepping beside him. "I should know how to make coffee at 30 years old." Savannah smiled. "Everyone has things they don't know how to do." "What don't you know how to do?" he asked, watching her measure the coffee grounds. She thought for a moment. "I can't whistle. My grandma tried to teach me for years, but I never got the hang of it." A small smile touched his lips, the first she'd seen. "I can whistle. Show me." To her surprise, he demonstrated a perfect whistle. "Show off," she teased, and his smile grew slightly wider. That afternoon, a courier delivered a package addressed to Nathaniel. Savannah brought it to his office. "This just arrived for you, Mr. Cross." He looked at the return address and his expression hardened. Without opening it, he dropped it into a drawer filled with similar unopened envelopes. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Just business." But something in his voice told her it was more personal than business. The drawer held at least a dozen letters, all bearing the same return address. That night, Savannah was folding laundry when the lights suddenly went out. A summer thunderstorm had knocked out the power. She found a flashlight in the kitchen and began checking the rooms to make sure everything was secure. When she reached the library, her flashlight beam fell on Nathaniel, asleep on the leather couch. An open book lay on his chest, rising and falling with his steady breathing. In sleep, the tension had left his face. He looked younger, vulnerable. As she turned to leave, she heard him murmur something. She paused, listening. "Savannah," he whispered in his sleep, so softly she almost missed it. Her heart skipped a beat. She backed out of the room quietly, her mind racing. Why was he dreaming about her? The next morning, the power was restored, and Savannah went about her usual duties. When she brought Nathaniel his morning coffee in the office, he wouldn't meet her eyes. "Mr. Cross, about last night. I need to speak with you," he interrupted, his voice suddenly formal. "Your services will no longer be required at this estate." Savannah nearly dropped the coffee cup. "What?" "You're fired, effective immediately. Mrs. Winters will arrange for your transportation back to the city this afternoon." "But why? Have I done something wrong?" He finally looked at her, his blue eyes cold and distant again. "This isn't working out. You'll receive a month's salary as severance. At least tell me what I did, she insisted. Nothing, you did nothing wrong. For a brief moment, his mask slipped, revealing what looked like fear. That's the problem. Confused and hurt, Savannah returned to her room to pack. As she folded her clothes, tears stung her eyes. She'd grown to care about this strange, lonely man, and now she was being sent away without explanation. What she didn't know was that Nathaniel Cross was standing in his office, staring out the window, fighting the urge to call her back. Firing her was the first decision he'd ever made out of fear, because what he felt for her might be the one thing he couldn't control. And for a man who had spent his entire life maintaining perfect control, that was terrifying. Savannah stared out the window of the bus as it pulled away from the small town near Cross Estate. Rain streaked down the glass, matching the tears on her cheeks. She'd been fired without warning, without reason. 2 suitcases at her feet contained everything she owned in the world. Back in her grandmother's apartment, now emptier than ever, Savannah dropped her bags and sank onto the worn couch. The pile of bills still sat on the kitchen table, now joined by an eviction notice. The severance check from Nathaniel would cover these immediate expenses. But what then? Her phone rang. It was Margaret Wilson from Elite Staffing Solutions. "Miss Brooks, I was surprised to hear about your departure from Cross Estate," she said. "That makes 2 of us," Savannah replied, her voice flat. "This is unusual. Mr. Cross has requested we not send any replacements. Did something happen between you two?" Savannah thought about Nathaniel whispering her name in his sleep. "Nothing I can explain." "Well, I have other clients if you're interested in a new placement. I need some time to think." After hanging up, Savannah unpacked her things. At the bottom of her suitcase, she found a book she didn't recognize, a collection of poetry. Inside the cover was a bookplate with Nathaniel's name. She must have accidentally packed it with her things. She opened it and a small note fell out. In neat, precise handwriting it read, "Words I never learned to say." It wasn't signed, but she knew it was Nathaniel's handwriting. Had he slipped this into her suitcase, or was it truly an accident? Meanwhile, at Cross Estate, Nathaniel paced his office like a caged animal. Mrs. Winters watched him with concern. "Sir, shall I contact the agency about a replacement for Miss Brooks?" "No," he snapped, then softened his tone. "No replacements. The house needs maintenance, Mr. Cross. I can clean my own house." Mrs. Winters raised an eyebrow but said nothing. In the 10 years she'd worked for him, Nathaniel Cross had never so much as washed a dish. That evening, Nathaniel stood in the kitchen staring at the coffee maker, remembering how Savannah had shown him to use it. He jabbed at buttons randomly until Mrs. Winters took pity on him. "Allow me, sir. I should know how to do this," he muttered. "You've never needed to before. Maybe that's the problem." Days passed. Nathaniel's routine fell apart. He slept at odd hours, forgot to eat, and spent long periods staring out windows. The house, once immaculate, began to show signs of neglect. One morning, Mrs. Winters found him attempting to dust the living room, looking completely lost. "Mr. Cross, may I speak freely?" He nodded, setting down the feather duster. "In all my years working here, I've never seen you affected by anyone the way Miss Brooks affected you." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do. You're afraid." His blue eyes flashed with anger, then softened into something like defeat. "I don't know how to do this, Mrs. Winters." "Do what, sir? Feel this way about someone?" Mrs. Winters smiled gently. "No one does at first. That's part of living. I've never—" He trailed off, looking embarrassed. "Been in love? Been close to anyone? Not like that." Mrs. Winters nodded, understanding. "It's never too late to learn, sir." In the city, Savannah landed a temporary position at a downtown office, filing paperwork for 8 hours a day. The pay was barely enough to cover rent, but it kept the lights on. Every night, she opened Nathaniel's book of poetry, reading the words he had underlined, wondering if they were messages he couldn't speak aloud. 2 weeks after leaving Cross Estate, Savannah was walking home when a sleek black car pulled alongside her. The window rolled down to reveal Mrs. Winters in the back seat. "Miss Brooks, may I have a word?" Surprised, Savannah stopped. "Mrs. Winters, what are you doing here? Getting tired of watching a grown man wallow in misery. Please get in." Hesitantly, Savannah slid into the car beside the older woman. "Mr. Cross hasn't been the same since you left," Mrs. Winters said bluntly. "He doesn't eat, barely sleeps, and has managed to break the coffee maker beyond repair." Despite herself, Savannah smiled at the image. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've worked for that man for 10 years, and I've never seen him care about anyone until you walked through the door. He's just too stubborn and scared to admit it. He fired me because he's terrified. Mr. Cross has spent his entire life avoiding emotional connections. His childhood was difficult. What do you mean? Mrs. Winters sighed. It's not my story to tell. But those letters he keeps unopened in his drawer, they're from his parents. Parents who shipped him off to boarding school at age 7 and visited twice a year at most. Savannah thought about the untouched birthday cake, the lack of photographs, the sterile perfection of his home. He doesn't know how to let people in. No. And now he's realizing what he's missing, and it frightens him. What do you want from me, Mrs. Winters? Come back. Not as his housekeeper. Come as a guest. Talk to him. Why would I do that? He hurt me. Because I suspect you care for him too. Mrs. Winters handed her an envelope. His company is having a charity gala tomorrow night. He'll be there. His first public appearance in years. This is an invitation. After Mrs. Winters left, Savannah opened the envelope. Inside was an elegant invitation to a technology charity gala at the Grand Plaza Hotel. She ran her fingers over the embossed lettering, thinking. That night, she called her friend Jasmine. I need to borrow a dress. Something fancy. The Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and the jewelry of New York's elite. Savannah felt out of place in Jasmine's borrowed black dress as she handed her invitation to the doorman. Inside, tech industry leaders mingled with celebrities and philanthropists. Savannah scanned the room, finally spotting Nathaniel in a corner, looking uncomfortable in his perfectly tailored suit. A beautiful blonde woman in a red dress spoke animatedly beside him, touching his arm occasionally. He flinched slightly each time. Gathering her courage, Savannah approached them. Nathaniel looked up, and the shock on his face was immediate. "Savannah," he breathed, as if saying a prayer. The blonde woman glanced between them, sensing the tension. "Nathaniel, aren't you going to introduce me? Jessica, this is Savannah Brooks. Savannah, Jessica Morgan, my company's PR director." Jessica's smile was professional but curious. "How do you two know each other?" Before Nathaniel could answer, Savannah said, "I used to work at Mr. Cross's estate." "I see," Jessica replied, clearly not seeing at all. "Well, Nathaniel, don't forget you're speaking in 20 minutes. She walked away, leaving them alone. "What are you doing here?" Nathaniel asked, his voice strained. "Mrs. Winters invited me." His jaw tightened. "She overstepped, maybe. Or maybe she saw something you're afraid to see." Around them, people began taking their seats for dinner. Nathaniel hesitated, then asked, "Will you stay? We can talk after my speech." Savannah nodded and found her assigned table near the front. Nathaniel took the stage, looking more confident than she'd ever seen him. He spoke about his company's initiative to bring technology education to underprivileged communities. His passion for the subject transformed him. This was the realm where he felt secure. After dinner, Nathaniel found her again. "Can we talk somewhere private?" He led her to a small terrace overlooking the city lights. For a long moment, neither spoke. "I found your book," Savannah finally said. "The poetry." Nathaniel looked at his shoes. "I put it in your suitcase." "Why?" "Because I couldn't say what I needed to say." Savannah moved closer to him. "Try. Say it now." He looked up, his blue eyes vulnerable. "I've never let anyone close to me, not ever. I don't know how." "Why not?" Nathaniel turned to look out at the city. "My parents were distant. They sent me to boarding school young. I was different from the other kids. Quiet, too smart, awkward. I learned that being alone was safer. And as an adult, I built walls, created a life where I didn't need anyone." He looked at her. "Then you arrived and suddenly the walls felt like a prison. So you pushed me away." "Yes." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I heard them talking about me, the staff at school, that strange cross boy. Something not right about him. I decided if I was going to be different, I'd make it work for me. I focused on computers, on building my company. I never—" He stopped. "Never what?" "I've never been with anyone. Not romantically. Not physically." His face flushed with embarrassment. 30 years old, and I've never even kissed someone. Savannah's heart ached for him. "There's nothing wrong with that. Isn't there? Most people don't make it to 30 without— Most people aren't you." She touched his hand gently. "And there's nothing wrong with you, Nathaniel." He looked at her hand on his, then slowly turned his palm up to hold hers. "I dream about you. That night during the power outage, I was dreaming about telling you everything. Then I woke up and found you standing there, and I panicked. So you fired me. I was afraid of what I felt. I've spent my life in control of everything around me, but with you I feel like I'm falling with no safety net." Savannah squeezed his hand. "That's what it's supposed to feel like." Inside the ballroom, the band began playing a slow song. Through the glass doors, couples moved onto the dance floor. "Would you—" Nathaniel swallowed nervously. Would you dance with me? You dance? Theoretically, I understand the concept. Savannah laughed, and the tension between them eased. Come on, genius, I'll show you how. She led him back inside and onto the dance floor. Hesitantly, he placed his hands on her waist, while she rested hers on his shoulders. Now we just sway to the music, she explained. He moved stiffly at first, then gradually relaxed. Is this right? Perfect. As they danced, Savannah noticed Jessica watching them with narrowed eyes. I think your PR director is jealous. Nathaniel glanced over. Jessica? She's been trying to get me to date her for years, says it would be good publicity. And you're not interested? She wants to be seen with Nathaniel Cross, billionaire. She doesn't even know me. He looked down at Savannah. Not like you do. The song ended and Nathaniel reluctantly stepped back. Will you come back to the estate? Not as staff, as... I don't know what. As a friend? He nodded. For now. I'd like to see where this goes, but I need to take it slow. I'd like that. The next day, Savannah returned to Cross Estate, this time entering through the front door as a guest. Mrs. Winters greeted her with a knowing smile. Your room is prepared, Miss Brooks, different from your previous accommodations. The room was in the main wing of the house, beautifully decorated with fresh flowers on the bedside table. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway, looking uncertain. Is it acceptable? It's beautiful, thank you. I thought we could have dinner. I've been practicing making pasta. It's the only thing I can cook without burning. Over the next weeks, they fell into a new routine. They had breakfast together each morning. Nathaniel worked during the day, while Savannah used his library to research job opportunities. In the evenings, they talked for hours, about books, about her grandmother, about his company. One evening, they sat in the library when Savannah noticed the drawer where Nathaniel kept the unopened letters. Have you ever read them? The letters from your parents? His face clouded. No. Don't you wonder what they say? They're probably just business, checking on their investment. Or maybe they're trying to connect with you in the only way they know how. Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Would you sit with me while I read one? Savannah nodded. He retrieved the most recent letter and carefully opened it. As he read, his expression changed from guarded to surprised. They want to visit. They say they've been trying to reach me for years. He looked up at Savannah. They say they're sorry. Are you going to let them come? I don't know. He set the letter aside. I've been alone for so long. I don't know if I can change. You're not alone anymore, Savannah reminded him. That night, a summer storm rolled in, similar to the one when she'd found him asleep in the library. Thunder cracked overhead, and the lights flickered, but stayed on. Unable to sleep, Savannah went to the kitchen for some tea. To her surprise, Nathaniel was already there making 2 cups. I thought you might be awake, he explained. You mentioned once that storms keep you up. You remembered that. I remember everything you tell me. They took their tea to the living room, sitting side by side on the couch. Outside, lightning illuminated the gardens in brief, electric moments. Can I ask you something? Savannah said. That night when I found you asleep and you were saying my name, what were you dreaming about? Nathaniel's fingers tightened around his mug. I was dreaming that I was telling you how I felt, that I was brave enough to say it out loud. And how do you feel? He set his tea down and turned to face her. Like I've been asleep my whole life, and now I'm finally waking up. Slowly, giving him time to pull away, Savannah leaned closer. His eyes widened, but he didn't move back. When their lips were inches apart, she whispered, Is this okay? He nodded, unable to speak. Gently, she pressed her lips to his in a soft, brief kiss. His hand came up to touch her face in wonder. That was, he began. Your first kiss, she finished. A crash of thunder shook the house and the lights went out, plunging them into darkness. They both laughed, breaking the tension. I should find some candles, Nathaniel said, his voice steadier than Savannah expected. I know where they are. I used to work here, remember? By candlelight, they continued talking until dawn, sharing stories and dreams. As the first light of morning filtered through the windows, Savannah rested her head on Nathaniel's shoulder, finally drifting to sleep. He watched her, marveling at how his life had changed in such a short time. For the first time, he understood what all those poems in his book were about. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. But across town, Jessica Morgan scrolled through photos from the charity gala on her tablet. She zoomed in on one showing Nathaniel and Savannah dancing, his face more open and vulnerable than she'd ever seen it. Who are you really, Savannah Brooks? She murmured, typing the name into a search engine. And what do you want with Nathaniel Cross? On her screen, an article appeared. Tech billionaire's new girlfriend, gold digger or true love. The headline was accompanied by the photo of them dancing, Savannah's face clearly visible. Jessica smiled coldly and picked up her phone. "I need everything you can find on Savannah Brooks," she said to the person on the other end. "Everyone has secrets. Find hers." Back at Cross Estate, unaware of the brewing storm, Savannah and Nathaniel slept peacefully side by side on the couch, his arm protectively around her, both of them finally touching what they had been missing all their lives. Morning sunlight streamed through the living room windows, waking Savannah. She found herself still on the couch, Nathaniel's arm around her. For a moment, she simply watched him sleep, his face peaceful in a way she'd never seen before. His eyes fluttered open, focusing on her with momentary confusion before recognition dawned. "Good morning," she said softly. "You stayed," he replied, a hint of wonder in his voice. "Of course I stayed." They shared a simple breakfast prepared by Mrs. Winters, who couldn't quite hide her pleased smile at seeing them together. Afterward, Nathaniel hesitantly asked, "Would you like to see my workshop? It's in the basement. No one else has been down there." The basement workshop was Nathaniel's true sanctuary. Computer parts, circuit boards, and tools covered every surface. One wall was lined with screens displaying code and diagrams. "This is where I created Safeguard," he explained, referring to the security software that had made him billions. "It's amazing," Savannah said, genuinely impressed. "You built all this yourself? Building things makes sense to me." "It always has." He picked up a small device. "This is my newest project, a security system that can detect unauthorized access based on behavioral patterns rather than just passwords." As he explained the technology, his entire demeanor changed. Gone was the awkward, hesitant man. Here, surrounded by his creations, Nathaniel was confident, passionate, even charismatic. "You're different down here," Savannah observed. "This is where I feel in control, where things follow logical rules." He set the device down. "People aren't like that. They're unpredictable. Is that scary for you?" "Terrifying," he looked at her. "But I'm learning that some risks are worth taking." Over the following days, Savannah and Nathaniel settled into a new routine. In the mornings, they would walk through the gardens together. During the day, Nathaniel worked while Savannah began taking online courses in business administration, something she'd always wanted to study but couldn't afford before. In the evenings, they would share what they'd learned that day. Sometimes they would read together in the library, other times watch classic movies Nathaniel had never seen. Physical affection came slowly. Each touch was a careful negotiation. Nathaniel learning to initiate contact, Savannah learning to recognize when he needed space. Their kisses grew more confident, but remained tender. One evening, as they sat in the garden watching the sunset, Nathaniel said, "I replied to my parents' letter. I invited them to visit next month." Savannah squeezed his hand. "That's a big step. I'm nervous about it. I haven't seen them in person for over 5 years. I'll be right beside you if you want me there." His fingers tightened around hers. "I do. I want you with me." Meanwhile, Jessica Morgan sat in her sleek downtown office, reviewing the file her private investigator had compiled on Savannah Brooks. "Orphaned at 12, raised by her grandmother," she read aloud. "Scholarship to community college, dropped out to care for her ailing grandmother. No criminal record, substantial medical and funeral debts. Nothing suspicious there," her assistant commented. "Keep digging. There must be something we can use." Jessica tapped her manicured nails on the desk. "The gala photos are gaining traction online. People are curious about the mysterious woman who caught Nathaniel Cross's attention. Should we issue a statement?" "Not yet. I want to see how this plays out." Jessica smiled coldly. "Nathaniel may be a genius with computers, but he's naive about people. He doesn't see how this woman is using him." Back at Cross Estate, Savannah was checking her email when she found a message from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "Nathaniel Cross expose, we want your story." With a growing sense of unease, she opened it. "Dear Ms. Brooks, I'm a reporter with the Daily Observer. We're doing a feature on Nathaniel Cross and understand you have a unique relationship with him. We're prepared to offer $50,000 for an exclusive interview about the real Nathaniel Cross. Please contact me to discuss." Savannah deleted the email immediately, but her hands were shaking. How had they found her? Who knew about her relationship with Nathaniel? More troubling emails followed over the next few days. Reporters offering money for information, gossip bloggers requesting photos. Savannah deleted them all without telling Nathaniel, not wanting to worry him. Then one morning she went into town to pick up a few things and found herself being followed by a photographer. Savannah, are you and Nathaniel engaged? How did you meet? Is it true you were his maid? She hurried back to the car where Mrs. Winters waited. We need to go, now. I was afraid this might happen, Mrs. Winters said as they drove away. Mr. Cross's privacy has always been fiercely protected. Now that he's being seen in public with you, people are curious. But how did they find out about me? Mrs. Winters's expression hardened. I have my suspicions. When they returned to the estate, Nathaniel was pacing the foyer anxiously. Are you okay? Security called to say there was a photographer at the gate. I'm fine, just rattled. He led her to his office and showed her his laptop screen. On it was a tabloid website with the headline, Billionaire's Cinderella, from maid to mistress. They're calling you a gold digger, he said, his voice tight with anger, saying you seduced me to get my money. Savannah felt sick. Nathaniel, I would never... I know. He closed the laptop. This is my fault. I should have known this would happen if I went public with our relationship. You think we should hide? No. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't want to hide you or how I feel about you, but I need to protect you from this. That evening, Nathaniel called an emergency meeting with his company's legal team. Jessica arrived looking concerned, though Savannah noticed a calculating gleam in her eyes. We need to control this narrative, Jessica said. Issue a statement about your relationship. Do a controlled interview with a friendly publication. No, Nathaniel replied firmly. My private life is not for public consumption. But Nathaniel, Jessica argued, if we don't get ahead of this, the speculation will only get worse. Then let it. I won't parade Savannah around like some trophy. After the lawyers left, Jessica lingered. Could I speak with you privately, Nathaniel? Savannah stood to leave, but Nathaniel caught her hand. Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of Savannah. Jessica's perfect smile faltered. Very well. I'm concerned about how quickly this relationship has developed. As your PR director and friend, I feel obligated to point out that you know very little about Ms. Brooks. I know everything I need to know, Nathaniel replied coolly. Do you? Jessica reached into her bag and withdrew a folder. Did you know about the $75,000 in debt she was facing when she took this job, or about the lawsuit her grandmother was involved in before she died? A lawsuit against a tech company very similar to yours? Savannah gasped. How did you get that information? It's my job to protect Nathaniel's interests. Jessica turned to him. I'm just concerned about her motivations. Nathaniel's face had gone still, his expression unreadable. For a terrible moment, Savannah thought he might believe Jessica's insinuations. Then he stood and took the folder from Jessica's hands. Without opening it, he tore it in half and dropped the pieces in the trash. I think you should leave now, Jessica, and I'll expect your resignation on my desk tomorrow morning. Jessica's composed facade cracked. You're firing me. Over her. I'm firing you because you invaded the privacy of someone I care about. That's not protecting my interests. It's betraying my trust. After Jessica stormed out, Savannah turned to Nathaniel. She was right about one thing. I do have debt from my grandmother's medical bills. I should have told you. Would it have changed anything if you had? She thought about it. No, but I didn't want you to think I was after your money. I know you're not. He took her hands in his. But if it makes you feel better, consider those debts paid. Nathaniel, no. I can't accept that. Why not? Because I don't want there to be a power imbalance between us. I need to know I'm with you because I choose to be, not because I owe you. He considered this. I understand, but will you at least let me help? You can pay me back if that's important to you. That night, as they sat by the fireplace, Nathaniel seemed lost in thought. Finally, he asked, Why did you never tell me about your grandmother's lawsuit? Savannah sighed. I didn't know about it until after she died. I found the paperwork when I was sorting through her things. She believed her privacy was violated by security software installed on her computer at work. The company collected data they shouldn't have. Which company? TechGuard Systems. They settled out of court for a small amount, most of which went to her medical bills. Nathaniel's expression darkened. TechGuard was founded by my former business partner, Michael Davis. We had a falling out years ago over ethical concerns. I was developing Safeguard as a privacy-focused alternative to their invasive approach. So that's why your software is different. It protects privacy instead of exploiting it. Yes. I believe security shouldn't come at the cost of personal freedom. He hesitated. I need to tell you something. After I fired Jessica, I called my bank. Your grandmother's medical debts have been paid anonymously. Nathaniel? Before you object, it wasn't charity, it was justice. If your grandmother suffered because of unethical tech practices, then as someone who benefits from this industry, I have a responsibility to make it right. Savannah was quiet for a long moment. Thank you. She would have appreciated that. 2 days later, Mrs. Winters announced that there was a visitor at the gate, Michael Davis, Nathaniel's former business partner. He says it's urgent, Mrs. Winters reported, clearly displeased. Nathaniel frowned. Let him in, I want to hear what he has to say. Michael Davis was everything Nathaniel wasn't. Loud, flashy, and overly familiar. He greeted Nathaniel with a forced heartiness that immediately put Savannah on edge. Nate, it's been too long, and this must be the lovely lady I've been hearing about. He extended his hand to Savannah with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. What do you want, Michael? Nathaniel asked coldly. Can't an old friend just drop by to catch up? When Nathaniel didn't respond, Michael sighed. Fine, I heard about your little PR problem and thought I might help. I don't need your help. Don't be so sure. Michael settled into a chair uninvited. Jessica Morgan came to see me yesterday. She had some interesting things to say about your new relationship. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Jessica was fired for unethical behavior. Yes, investigating your girlfriend's background. Smart move on her part, if you ask me. Michael glanced at Savannah. No offense, my dear, but Nate here has always been a bit naive about people's intentions. Get to the point, Michael, Nathaniel said, his patience clearly wearing thin. The point is, Jessica's not the only one who can dig up dirt. I've been keeping an eye on you since you left our partnership. I know things about your operation that could cause problems if they became public. Are you threatening me? Michael spread his hands innocently. Just offering some friendly advice. Distance yourself from this situation before it damages your reputation. Focus on our industry where you belong. Our industry? Nathaniel laughed without humor. You mean the industry where you sell people's private data to the highest bidder, where you exploit security vulnerabilities instead of fixing them? It's called business, Nate. Something you used to understand before you went soft. I think you should leave, Savannah said, speaking up for the first time. Michael's eyes narrowed. You don't know what you're getting into, sweetheart. Nathaniel may seem gentle, but there's a reason he's been alone all these years. Ask him about the Cambridge project. Ask him what happened to the test subjects. That's enough! Nathaniel stood, his face flushed with anger. Get out of my house. After Michael left, Savannah found Nathaniel in his workshop, his hands shaking as he tried to work on a circuit board. What was he talking about? She asked gently. The Cambridge project? Nathaniel set down his tools. It was an early research program. Before I started my company, we were developing facial recognition software that could predict behavior based on micro-expressions. What happened? The military became interested. They wanted to use it for interrogations. I refused and shut down the project, but Michael continued it secretly. When I found out, I exposed what he was doing and left the partnership. He looked at her with anguished eyes. But not before the software was tested on people without their consent. People got hurt, Savannah, and it was partly my fault for creating it in the first place. Savannah took his hands. You tried to stop it. That counts for something. Does it? Sometimes I think all this, he gestured around at his wealth, his home, is just my way of atoning for the damage my work could do in the wrong hands. The next morning brought news that Jessica Morgan had been named the new PR director at TechGuard Systems. By afternoon, tech blogs were buzzing with rumors about security flaws in Nathaniel's software. Rumors that seemed designed to damage his company's reputation. This is just the beginning, Nathaniel said grimly as they read the reports. Michael won't stop until he discredits me completely. Can he do that? Not with facts, but with enough rumors and innuendo, he could cause real damage. That evening, as they discussed strategies for countering Michael's attacks, Mrs. Winters interrupted with a surprising announcement. Mr. Cross, your parents have arrived. Nathaniel froze. What? They're not due for another 2 weeks. Nevertheless, they're at the gate now. Shall I let them in? Nathaniel looked at Savannah, panic evident in his eyes. She squeezed his hand reassuringly. It's okay. I'm right here with you. Richard and Eleanor Cross were everything Savannah had imagined. Elegant, reserved, and clearly uncomfortable with emotional displays. They greeted their son with formal handshakes rather than embraces. We came as soon as we saw the news, Eleanor explained, her eyes darting curiously to Savannah. We were concerned. The news? Nathaniel asked. Richard handed him a tablet displaying a business news site. The headline read, Cross Security Under Fire, Founder's Judgment Questioned Amid Romance Scandal. This is absurd, Nathaniel said. setting the tablet aside. "Mother, Father, this is Savannah Brooks. Savannah, my parents." Eleanor extended a perfectly manicured hand. "Charmed, I'm sure." "We should discuss this privately, Nathaniel," Richard said, glancing meaningfully at Savannah. "Anything you have to say can be said in front of Savannah." Richard's expression hardened. "Very well. We're concerned about these rumors affecting company stock. The board is getting nervous." "The board?" Nathaniel looked confused. "What does the board have to do with my personal life?" "Everything. When your personal choices affect shareholder value," Eleanor replied. "Darling, we're not judging your relationship, but perhaps keeping it private would be wiser until this blows over." Savannah felt increasingly uncomfortable as they discussed her as if she weren't present. "I should give you some privacy," she said, standing to leave. "No." Nathaniel caught her hand. "Please stay." He turned to his parents. "I understand your concerns, but I won't hide Savannah away like she's something shameful. Not for the board, not for the stock price, not for anything." Eleanor and Richard exchanged glances. "Son," Richard began, his tone softening slightly, "we're not asking you to end your relationship, just to be discreet until Michael Davis's campaign against you loses steam. And if it doesn't, how long should we hide? A month? A year? As long as necessary to protect what you've built," Eleanor said firmly. Nathaniel stood, his decision made. "What I've built is a company founded on principles of privacy and personal freedom. If I compromise those principles in my own life, what does that say about everything I claim to stand for?" Richard looked at his son with new eyes, as if truly seeing him for the first time. "You've changed, Nathaniel." "Yes," Nathaniel agreed, looking at Savannah. "I have." Later that night, after his parents had been shown to guest rooms, Nathaniel and Savannah sat in the garden. The tension of the day had left him drained. "I've never stood up to them before," he admitted. "I always just retreated into my work." "I'm proud of you," Savannah said. "It's because of you. You make me braver." He took her hand, tracing her palm with his finger. "All my life, I've been defined by what I create, what I own, what I know, never by who I love." Savannah's heart skipped. "Love?" Nathaniel looked up, vulnerability and determination mingling in his eyes. "Yes, I love you, Savannah. I think I started falling in love with you the first time you made me coffee and didn't act like I was strange for not knowing how." She touched his face gently. "I love you too." Their kiss was deeper than before, filled with newfound certainty. When they finally parted, Nathaniel rested his forehead against hers. "Whatever Michael Davis tries to do, whatever the press says, whatever my parents think, none of it matters as long as we're together." But across town, Michael Davis was meeting with Jessica Morgan in his penthouse office. "Everything is proceeding as planned," Jessica reported. "The rumors about security flaws have already affected their stock price." "Good," Michael smiled coldly. "But it's not enough. I want Nathaniel Cross completely discredited, his precious reputation destroyed." "I've been thinking about that." Jessica handed him a file. "Did you know his new girlfriend used to work at St. Mary's Medical Center, the same hospital where the Cambridge test subjects were treated?" Michael's eyes widened as he read the file. "Are you saying she's connected to those patients?" "Her grandmother was one of them," Jessica confirmed. "And I don't think it's a coincidence that she ended up in Nathaniel's home." "This is perfect," Michael said, his smile growing. "Nathaniel thinks he's found love, but she's been planning revenge all along. What do you want me to do?" "Leak it to the press, but not yet." Michael closed the file. "First, I want to offer her a deal she can't refuse. Everyone has their price, Jessica, even Savannah Brooks." Back at Cross Estate, unaware of the storm gathering against them, Savannah and Nathaniel walked hand in hand to the house, their hearts full and their guard down. They didn't notice the distant flash of a camera lens from beyond the property line, capturing their embrace against the moonlit garden. By morning, the photo would be everywhere, and with it, questions that would test their newfound love in ways neither could imagine. The photograph of Savannah and Nathaniel's moonlit embrace appeared on every gossip site by morning. "Reclusive billionaire's secret romance," screamed the headlines. Mrs. Winters brought the news to them at breakfast, her expression grim. "The press is at the gates, at least a dozen reporters." Nathaniel set down his coffee cup with a sigh. It was only a matter of time. Eleanor Cross entered the dining room, immaculately dressed despite the early hour. "This is precisely what we warned you about, Nathaniel. Now the entire business world is questioning your judgment." "Good morning to you too, Mother," Nathaniel replied dryly. Richard joined them, tablet in hand. "The board is calling an emergency meeting. They're concerned about the company's image." "Let them be concerned." Nathaniel reached for Savannah's hand. "My personal life is not up for discussion." Eleanor's gaze fixed on their joined hands. Perhaps Miss Brooks would consider returning to the city until this blows over, for everyone's sake. "No," Nathaniel said firmly. "Savannah stays." In fact, he turned to Savannah, his eyes soft but determined. "I'd like her to attend the board meeting with me." "That would be highly irregular," Richard protested. "So is this entire situation," Nathaniel countered. "If they want to question my judgment, they can do it to my face, and they can meet the woman I love at the same time." 2 hours later, they were in the back of Nathaniel's car, heading toward the Cross Securities headquarters in downtown Manhattan. Savannah wore a simple but elegant blue dress, borrowed from Mrs. Winter's niece, who was close to her size. "Are you sure about this?" she asked Nathaniel. "Maybe your parents are right. Maybe I should stay out of sight for a while." "No," he squeezed her hand. "I've spent my life hiding. From relationships, from emotions, from the world. I'm done hiding." At Cross Securities, employees stared openly as Nathaniel led Savannah through the lobby. Unlike his casual attire at home, here he wore a perfectly tailored suit that emphasized his lean frame. In this environment, Savannah could see the powerful CEO that others knew, confident, focused, commanding respect with every step. The boardroom fell silent as they entered. 12 men and women in expensive suits sat around a massive table, with Richard and Eleanor already seated near the head. Jessica Morgan stood by a presentation screen, looking surprised at Savannah's presence. "What is she doing here?" Jessica asked sharply. "Ms. Brooks is here at my invitation," Nathaniel replied coolly. "As the subject of much of today's discussion, I felt she deserved to be present." One of the board members, an older man with silver hair, cleared his throat. "Mr. Cross, while we respect your personal choices, this meeting concerns company matters." "Does it?" Nathaniel pulled out a chair for Savannah before taking his own. "Because from the agenda I received, this meeting seems to be about my relationship and how it might affect our stock price. That makes it very much Ms. Brooks' business." Jessica stepped forward. "If I may, the concerns are more specific than that. There are questions about Ms. Brooks's background and potential conflicts of interest." "What conflicts?" Nathaniel challenged. Jessica glanced at her tablet. "Our investigation has uncovered some troubling connections." "Ms. Brooks' grandmother was Evelyn Harris, correct?" Savannah nodded, confused about where this was going. "And Ms. Harris was employed at Tech Guard Systems before her retirement." "Yes," Savannah confirmed. "She was an administrative assistant there for nearly 20 years. Jessica smiled triumphantly. "What you may not know, board members, is that Evelyn Harris was also patient 37 in the Cambridge project, a project Mr. Cross was involved with before founding this company." Murmurs spread around the table. Nathaniel's face went pale. "Furthermore," Jessica continued, "Ms. Harris later filed a lawsuit against Tech Guard regarding privacy violations, a lawsuit that was settled quietly out of court." "What are you implying?" Nathaniel asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "I'm suggesting that perhaps Ms. Brooks sought employment at your estate for reasons beyond a paycheck, that perhaps her goal was information gathering, or even revenge for her grandmother." The boardroom erupted in concerned whispers. Savannah sat frozen, the pieces suddenly falling into place in her mind. "Is this true?" Nathaniel asked her, his blue eyes searching hers. "Did you know about the Cambridge project? About your grandmother's involvement?" Savannah took a deep breath. "I knew my grandmother had been part of some kind of research program years ago. She never talked about it much, just that it had been a terrible experience. And yes, I knew she had sued Tech Guard, but I never connected it to you, Nathaniel. I didn't even know you existed until the agency sent me to your house." "A convenient story," Jessica commented. "It's the truth," Savannah insisted. "Check with Elite Staffing Solutions. They'll confirm I was randomly assigned to the position." The silver-haired board member leaned forward. "Even if that's true, this creates a significant appearance of impropriety. The market doesn't respond well to such complications." "What exactly are you suggesting?" Nathaniel asked. "Perhaps a temporary separation," another board member offered, "just until our PR team can manage the narrative." Nathaniel stood abruptly. "Let me be clear. I will not end my relationship with Savannah to satisfy the board, the market, or anyone else. If that's what you're asking, you should prepare for my resignation instead." Shocked silence fell over the room. Even Richard and Eleanor looked stunned. "For you would give up your company?" Richard finally asked. Everything you've built. For Savannah? Yes. Nathaniel's voice was steady. I founded this company on principles of privacy, security, and personal freedom. If I compromise those values in my own life, what's the point of any of it? The boardroom doors suddenly burst open, and Michael Davis strode in with his characteristic swagger. Sorry to crash the party, he announced, but I thought you might want to hear my offer before making any hasty decisions. You're not welcome here, Michael, Nathaniel said coldly. Oh, I think the board will want to hear this. Michael smiled at the assembled executives. TechGuard Systems is prepared to make a generous acquisition offer for Cross Securities, 40% above current market value. More murmurs around the table, some clearly interested. And of course, Michael continued, we'd retain most of the current staff, though the leadership would need some adjustments. This is outrageous, Nathaniel protested. You're trying to capitalize on a manufactured scandal to steal my company. Michael shrugged. Business is business, Nate. Nothing personal. He turned to Savannah. Well, maybe a little personal. By the way, Ms. Brooks, I have a proposition for you as well. TechGuard is prepared to offer you $5 million for your exclusive story about Nathaniel Cross, the man, the myth, all those intimate details. Savannah stood, anger flooding her. You disgust me. Think about it, Michael urged. $5 million for a few interviews. Enough to set you up for life. Much more than you'd get from Nathaniel, especially once he realizes you've been playing him all along. I haven't been playing anyone, Savannah insisted. Jessica stepped forward. We have evidence suggesting otherwise. Your visit to Cross Securities 3 months before you took the housekeeping job, for instance. Savannah froze. What? Security footage shows you entering this building in February, yet you claim you didn't know who Nathaniel was until the agency sent you to his house in May. All eyes turned to Savannah. Even Nathaniel looked uncertain now. I did come here, she admitted, but not to see Nathaniel. I came to deliver paperwork related to my grandmother's estate. Her attorney asked me to drop off some final documents regarding the settlement. A likely story, Jessica scoffed. It's the truth. Savannah turned to Nathaniel. I never met you. I never even went past the lobby. Nathaniel was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Then he turned to his assistant, who had been taking notes in the corner. James, pull the visitor logs from February and the security footage. While they waited, the tension in the room was palpable. Michael looked smug, Jessica nervous, the board members confused. Savannah felt her future hanging in the balance. James returned with a tablet. Here's the log, sir. February 12th, Savannah Brooks signed in at 10:17 a.m., delivered an envelope to reception for the legal department, and left at 10:23 a.m. Never went past security. The footage confirms it. Relief washed over Savannah. Nathaniel's expression softened as he took the tablet and reviewed the evidence himself. Well, that's disappointing, Michael said with a frown. But there's still the matter of her grandmother's connection to Cambridge. You can't deny that's a remarkable coincidence. It's no coincidence, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Eleanor Cross standing there, looking resolute. Mother? Nathaniel asked, confused. Eleanor stepped into the room. The Cambridge project records were sealed after the program was shut down. How did you access that information, Mr. Davis? Michael hesitated. I have my sources. The only way you could know that Evelyn Harris was patient 37 is if you were directly involved in the project. Eleanor's voice was razor sharp, which you weren't officially. What are you saying, Mother? Nathaniel asked. Eleanor took a deep breath. The Cambridge project was funded by Cross Innovations, your father's company, before you joined it. Richard and I approved the funding, believing it was legitimate research into human-computer interaction. When we discovered the military applications and the unethical testing, we shut it down immediately. But not before people were hurt, Richard added, standing to join his wife. People like Ms. Brooks' grandmother. Nathaniel looked stunned. You never told me. We were ashamed, Eleanor admitted. We thought we could protect you by keeping you away from it. When you later exposed similar research at TechGuard, we were proud of you, Nathaniel. You stood for the principles we had failed to uphold. Michael's smug expression had vanished. This is ancient history. It has nothing to do with my offer to acquire Cross Securities. I think it has everything to do with it, Nathaniel replied, his confidence returning. You never forgave me for exposing your unethical research. This isn't about business. It's about revenge. You're paranoid, Michael scoffed. Am I? Nathaniel turned to the board. Jessica Morgan was feeding information to Michael while working as our PR director. I suspect if we check her communications, we'll find evidence of corporate espionage. Jessica paled. That's ridiculous. Then you won't mind if our security team examines your company devices, Nathaniel suggested. He turned to James. Please escort Ms. Morgan to IT and have them conduct a thorough audit. As security personnel led a protesting Jessica away, Nathaniel addressed Michael. You should leave while you still can, before I decide to press charges for attempted corporate sabotage. Michael's face contorted with anger. This isn't over, Nate. Yes, it is, Nathaniel replied calmly. And it's Nathaniel, not Nate. After Michael stormed out, Nathaniel turned to the board members. I think we've had enough drama for one day. This meeting is adjourned. We can reconvene next week to discuss actual business matters. As the board members filed out, many of them nodding respectfully to Nathaniel, Richard approached his son. You handled that well, he said, a hint of pride in his voice. Better than I would have. We have a lot to talk about, Nathaniel replied, his tone measured but not cold. Yes, we do. Richard glanced at Savannah, beginning with a proper apology to Ms. Brooks and her family. Back at Cross Estate that evening, the four of them, Nathaniel, Savannah, Richard and Eleanor, sat in the living room. The formal barriers that had defined the Cross family for decades were slowly beginning to crumble. We should have told you about Cambridge years ago, Eleanor admitted. But we were so used to protecting you, first from the cruelty of other children, then from the business world's sharks. I didn't need protection, Nathaniel said. I needed honesty. You're right, Richard nodded. We kept you at a distance, believing it would make you stronger, more independent. Instead, we just made you lonely. Not anymore, Nathaniel said, looking at Savannah. Later, as they walked in the garden under the stars, Savannah asked Nathaniel, Are you okay? Today was intense. Strangely, I feel better than I have in years, he replied. For the first time, I feel like my parents actually see me, and the board members saw that I'm more than just the brilliant recluse they thought I was. And what about us? Savannah asked hesitantly. When Michael was making those accusations, for a moment you looked like you might believe him. Nathaniel stopped walking and turned to face her. For a second I did wonder, not because I don't trust you, but because I've spent my life expecting to be disappointed by people. It's a habit I'm still unlearning. I would never hurt you like that, Savannah assured him. I love you. I know. He took both her hands in his. I've spent my whole life hiding from feelings, from connection, building walls to keep people out. Then you came along and instead of trying to break down those walls, you just opened a door and walked through. There was always a door, Savannah said softly. You just needed someone to help you find it. In the following weeks, life at Cross Estate settled into a new normal. The media frenzy eventually died down, especially after Jessica's emails revealed the extent of her collaboration with Michael Davis. Both faced legal consequences for corporate espionage, while Nathaniel's reputation was restored, even enhanced by his principled stand. Richard and Eleanor began visiting regularly, slowly rebuilding their relationship with their son. They made efforts to connect with Savannah as well, initially awkward but increasingly genuine. One evening, 3 months after the boardroom confrontation, Nathaniel took Savannah to his workshop in the basement. In the center of his workbench sat a small velvet box. What's this? She asked. Open it, he encouraged, looking nervous but determined. Inside was a beautiful ring with a sapphire stone surrounded by small diamonds. It was my grandmother's, Nathaniel explained. The only family heirloom I ever cared about, because she was the only one who really saw me as a child. Savannah looked up at him, her heart pounding. I'm still learning how to do this, how to be in a relationship, how to be open, how to love, Nathaniel continued. I'll probably make mistakes along the way, but I know I want to spend my life with you, learning and growing together. He took the ring from the box and held it between them. Savannah Brooks, will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands were steady, no longer afraid of touching or being touched. 6 months later, they were married in the gardens of Cross Estate. Unlike the lavish weddings typical of billionaires, theirs was intimate, just family and close friends. Mrs. Winters cried openly during the ceremony, while Richard and Eleanor made genuine efforts to welcome Savannah into the family. At the reception, Nathaniel surprised everyone by leading Savannah onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. Gone was the stiff, awkward man who had needed Savannah to teach him how to sway to music. In his place was a man who moved with confidence, holding his bride close as they danced under the stars. Who taught you to dance like this? Savannah asked, impressed. I took lessons, he admitted with a smile. 3 months of private instruction. I wanted to surprise you. You never cease to amaze me, she said, touching his face gently. Later that night, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Nathaniel looked back at the house where his life had changed forever. Do you remember that night during the power outage, when you found me asleep in the library? Savannah nodded. You were saying my name in your sleep. I was dreaming that I told you I loved you, he said, that I was brave enough to let you see the real me. It seemed impossible then. And now I know that loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. He kissed her softly, and the most rewarding. As they drove away toward their future together, the lights of Cross Estate glowed warmly behind them. The mansion that had once been a fortress of solitude was now a home filled with life and love. Nathaniel Cross, the untouched billionaire who had never let anyone close enough, had finally found in Savannah what he had been missing all his life, not just the touch of another person, but the profound connection of souls that makes life worth living. And Savannah, who had taken a job out of necessity, had found something she never expected, a man whose quiet strength and genuine heart had captured her own, proving that sometimes the most precious things in life come from the most unexpected places. As they embarked on their new life together, both knew with certainty that they had been touched for the first time, and it would last forever. The end.